Okay, cool. Awesome. Everyone got that? Okay, awesome, cool.
Yeah.
Good, everybody. Welcome to another podcast. And as I said in the last one, we're going to forget about the numbers because we mixed them all up. So welcome, and hopefully you've all been having a fantastic, I guess, Easter break wherever you're in the world and the country. Tanya, welcome back. How are you doing this week?
Yeah, I'm doing good, thanks. Good to be back in action after the break, but also good to have a break, I suppose.
Yeah, awesome. And while you're on break, what did you learn? What did you put into your basket of knowledge?
What I learned is just to take a step back. We've talked about that before, but also now coming back into things, just knowing that other people are proud of you. I think most of the time, sometimes we feel like we're the only one in this journey, and that we're the only one wanting to see results. But actually knowing that there's a support system around you that want to see you achieve and want to see you strive, and it's not necessarily that you have to accomplish all you're trying to do, but at least putting in the effort and showing that you are trying and willing to do what it takes to get to where you are. That's where the true outcome comes. So just knowing that there are support systems around you and that other people are proud of you, and you're not always going to hear it, but just knowing that is comforting in itself.
Oh, that's a really awesome learning. I think that'll be a good segue to our guest later on today as well. That's fantastic learning. My learning, I guess, this week is not actually learning. It's more of a question about loyalty. I've been working for my organization for a long time now, and somebody asked me a question this week is, are you loyal to the organization or are you loyal to the person that works in the organization? And that threw me because I was like, yeah, I've never actually stopped to reflect about actually where my loyalty lies. And I think that's something I'm going to reflect on and go, and actually a question to ask as you're going forward to everybody out there. When you think about loyalty, are you loyal to a particular brand or an organization, or a person that represents that, or a person that you work for? And I think I can't answer that question. It's got me into this deep meditative state to think about that. So yeah, so there's no learning, but there's actually more for exploration, I guess, for me for this week. Yeah. Awesome. And I think this is a great segue to our listeners out there, wherever you are in the country and the world. As if you've been listening to our podcast over the last few months, basically, we've had an amazing array of guests. A lot of our guests have come from New Zealand. We have had some that are in the United States. And some from all around the country that have done some pretty cool things. Today's guest is pretty special for us. It is someone that Tanya and myself don't actually know, which is really awesome for us. This particular guest, I saw their story on LinkedIn, and I thought they would be a fantastic person to have a chat to because, as you know, for those of our regular listeners, this is all about a story, not about the outcome. So welcome to our podcast, Aran, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Fantastic. Aran, for our guests and the guests for us, do you want to tell us what you're doing at the moment and whereabouts in the world you are at the moment?
Yep. So I was born and raised in Sri Lanka. I did my schooling and my undergrad there. And I came to do my master's here in Australia, in Canberra. And currently I'm working in a law firm, in a property law firm. I just graduated in in April. So I'm just straight out of uni as well. And just working now, just taking a break, studying, and yeah.
Awesome, fantastic. But you've also got another degree. You've got 2 degrees, right?
Yeah, I do have 2 degrees. So my undergrad I did in Sri Lanka, but I had to tell this everywhere I go. Everyone thinks I did it in London.
Yeah.
But I did it in Sri Lanka. So that was a university, because there are universities that's affiliated with the University of London there.
Yes.
So
awesome.
Sri Lanka, and it was externals. And after that I came here to Canberra.
Oh, brilliant. So when you came to Canberra, did you come as an international student? Or did you
Yeah.
Yeah. And how was that for you?
It was pretty challenging because in Canberra, I didn't know anyone here. Other than in Melbourne, Sydney, I would have a couple of friends around. Yeah. But in Canberra, I did not know anyone here. But also, I loved the challenge and also loved the fact that I can start a new chapter as well. Yeah. And from all by myself because I wanted that. So yeah.
Oh, brilliant. So was that your decision making to go to Canberra that you decided because you knew nobody, or was there another reason you chose Canberra?
Canberra, I chose it because it was pretty quiet and I needed that as well. And Melbourne or Sydney was a very busy life. So I just needed space and also just needed my time to study well in my postgraduate, and just wanted to see what it's like if I don't know anyone. How can I face the world alone? Yeah. So I just that, and so I'm pretty much doing fine now.
It's a crazy challenge because a lot of people, when they choose to go to university, they have the fear of, I'm going to not know anybody, and it lets them hamper them. and a few people go, okay, I'm just going to give it a crack. And like you said, you'll see what happens. You either grow or you don't grow. You go back home, and that's it. It's not the end of the world. Talking about challenges, the one thing that really stood out for me is you grew up in Sri Lanka. What is that like as you reflect back now living in Australia? What is that like for you?
Sri Lanka, I think it was a pretty, I don't say it was a rough childhood, but it was pretty all right because even though my ancestors were pretty much during colonization and stuff like that was pretty much not privileged, but my parents and my grandparents worked really hard. So my father gave me a good life that I could live in. And I was born and raised in the capital. So I was pretty much privileged. But then again, it was all right because I was too grateful. But then again, I was just enjoying pretty much my life and doing my studies, pretty distracted as well at times. But when I came here, I think because I came to Australia when I was 21 or 22, and I've already had a plan and my life figured out. So it was pretty much easy for me to settle in. But it wasn't that same person when I was, during my teenage years. So and Australia is more comfortable, I would say.
It's crazy because I'm from Zimbabwe. I grew up in Zimbabwe. I was raised in Zimbabwe. Went to school there, and when you're in that world, it's just norm. Like you said, it's just norm. This is what happens. And sometimes when I reflect back, living in New Zealand, like, oh, maybe what is norm actually? Because every country has a different norm, and every situation has a different norm. When people say to you, "Oh, it must have been hard growing up in Sri Lanka," actually, or Zimbabwe, actually, it wasn't because I didn't know any different. I didn't know, and so yeah. But and Tana, I guess you feel the same thing as well, growing up in a rural region of New Zealand as well.
Yeah, it is quite different, and it's different from everywhere else in the country as well. And I think you don't know that at the time, but at the same time, I think I learned a lot of things that I wouldn't have learned elsewhere, and I think that's something we also don't realize when we are growing up. There's certain values and certain norms that you talk about that we take with us, and it can help certain situations.
Yeah. But one of the things you that I really that stood out for me in your posts, Aran, was the fact that you faced challenges. And one of the other things that really stood out for me was coming from a South Asian family is mental health challenges are not seen as it's not okay to talk about it. I mean, I come from a South Asian background. I know that mental health is something that people don't really talk about or address. What is that like for you? When did you realize that, okay, there was something going on that was not okay for you?
Probably, I think it was during, like I said, I was pretty privileged as well. So it was the fact that I was going through my exams, I was not doing well, but I was getting through. And, even getting through is like failing if you're in a South Asian family. And your parents and all my cousins were, acing their exams, getting straight A's, while I was getting B's and C's and D's. And it was pretty much everyone just looks down on you. And I think in my last final year, so in Australia, they have these ATARs where in my country, it was advanced levels. So I didn't do well, but I passed 2 subjects and I failed 1. And that was failure. And it was funny because I was a math student, and the one subject I failed was maths, while the other 2, physics and maths, I got through somehow. But again, I had this life moment where I went to my darkest places because I couldn't get into any engineering, like a good uni. And then I was like, I don't know what to do. And I had to take a reflect on moment, and I was pretty isolated, and I had no one to talk to. My friends, everyone was busy, and I hardly had friends in school as well. So I'm pretty introverted. And then I was like in a pretty dark place, and my parents didn't know what to do. Everyone was disowning me and started think small. And I was like, it was brink of suicide as well, because I didn't know what to do with my life. And I was out of options. And, back of my head, I had just had this, it was always coming to my mind always, maybe try law. And I was reading this book 2 weeks ago from Robert Greene, which is called Mastery. And it basically just talks about the callings from your younger selves as to find the passion on it. And I always did find law to be interesting as an extracurricular I did well. And then I was like, why not give this a shot? Because I passed 2 subjects. And I just had this, because my parents weren't convinced. So I had to learn how to do this and apply myself. And I just, found the university of this, found by myself, and somehow just aced the entrance one. And, made a promise to myself that I'll not fail anymore. And yeah, so that's how I got through.
Oh, crazy. Can I just go back a little bit? That is a fantastic share right there. You said that you were down, or you were gutted because engineering had disappeared for you, that door had closed for you. Was engineering something that you wanted to do, or was it the expectation from external places?
I think it was external places and the fact that they told me that I was good at maths.
Yeah.
But the thing was, I was probably good at it, but like I said, I was pretty distracted. I was focused on sports, playing the sports, and not focused on my career or my achievements. But then I realized that I was not good at sports as I thought I was. And then it just hit me like I had to do something in my life, and my parents aren't going to be there forever. And everyone was just looking down on me, and that just pretty much I was like, I just probably had to make something out of my life.
Yeah.
And yeah.
And what is the dynamic like at home now? Because obviously your parents love you and they care for you, and they have these expectations, and then those expectations just disappear. And like you said, it was really hard for you, for yourself as well, because you felt that you had let people down. How was the dynamic for your situation there? Because that would have been tough.
It was tough back then. It was really tough because I had my mother had like six sisters and one brother. So I have a huge family, and everyone looks down on you. And probably now they don't. So that because from where I was to where I'm now, and they're all proud.
Yeah.
And my parents are like super proud because they have like now someone to see that that they never gave up. Because after my first year in my undergrad was the fact that when I passed all my exams was where I got my parents' hopes back up.
Yeah.
Where they started to support me financially as well. And then it was like, and they were the only two that my mom and dad were the only two that always were like my cheerleaders, who knew that the risk I took, like coming to Canberra and everything, that was going to work out. And while everyone doubted, so it was like that.
That's awesome, and that links back right to what Tani said at the start with his learning. There's always someone there that is supporting you. It doesn't have to be 20,000 people, as long as even if it's one person, that's all that matters. And I think we're so programmed in the world now to have volume as opposed to quantity over quality. And you had the only two people that mattered in your life were your parents, and as long as they supported you, who cares about anyone else? And that's really beautiful. Tani, it's the same thing for you, right? You've had your parents supporting you from day one, essentially.
Yeah, my parents have been really supportive, and even if they don't necessarily know everything that I'm trying to achieve, they just know that, if I'm passionate about it, they're passionate about it as well. And so it's good to be able to reflect at times with them, talk to them when I can about things. And when I'm stressed, it's just small words that mum and dad give me of encouragement and support, which really get me through those challenging times. It doesn't have to be a huge spiel. It doesn't have to be motivational speeches. It just has to be, reassurance that, hey, you're doing all right. You're at university, you're already achieving things just by being here. And small things like that just make a huge difference when you are going through those moments.
Awesome. And then, Aran, back to you. So you said before that when you were at school, you were an introvert. Did that change when you went to university in Sri Lanka, or did it stay the same for you?
I think what I learned in my perspective, it might differ to people. And what I think is people come and go, and come and go as well, because at the end of the day I was thinking for myself, and also where I wanted to go as well in my life, just wanted to explore around the world. But I also was very humble, because I knew that every day I'm learning something, and there's always another smart and intelligent person I can learn from a lot. And so in university I had I had friends, but also I had really close friends as well. But sometimes friends can stab you in the back or just leave you as well. So what I learned from the fact that despite that, even though I was competitive, I used to help people a lot. So when I was in university, like in undergrad or even in Canberra, I used to help people who did a lot. I used to tutor them for free. I used to help them give my notes and everything. if they want to go, because I feel like, everyone's going through something, and if I can help them get through their studies, that's the least I can do for them. And I just did because that's something I like doing. I like helping people a lot. And yeah, so I knew that friends come and go, but I always had the space between who to trust and who not to trust as well. And then I just
Yeah.
but
Sorry, carry on.
yeah, that's about it. So
Yeah.
I'm still introverted as well. So, but it's just probably it's just how I am, but I also know how to deal with it as well. And yeah.
I think the most beautiful thing they said is that everybody's going through something, and I think that's important. I think a lot of us forget that when we see a person, it's just a micro part of their life that we're seeing. Even in real life, people say in social media, but it's also in real life. When you interact with somebody, you don't have no idea what's happening in their world. So the fact that you go, hey, if I can help you with this study, that's one thing that the life that they are less worried about, which is fantastic. The other thing that I want to highlight is when you said before that that there's always smarter people, and that's a great awareness, and I think that's important for all of us, because I heard a saying, I think Elon Musk said this, or somebody said this, that if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. And that's when I was like, actually, this is really true, because we have been conditioned so much that you have to be the smartest, the fastest, the best wherever. But if you are that person, how are you growing? You can't grow, right? So that's really awesome that you have that awareness there. Yeah, it's just there's so much that you said, which is really beautiful. So and also the other thing that I remember, what is really cool, I think Tanya might resonate with this as well, is when I went to university, I remember you have lots of people that are your friends. We'll put that as air quotes, because you have all this quantity. And I remember one senior had said to me, he took me on and said, hey, if you have a look around, these are all your friends here, but at the end of your degree, all of those will be acquaintances, and you only have very few friends. And I was like, wow, that is very, very profound. And that's what I found, and you lost it in my first year, my second year, but only your true friends will stick with you as you go forward. So, I like the way you mentioned that, because your friends might backstab you because, hey, humans are crazy. Only those you have that'll help you. Yeah. So you finished your qualification in Sri Lanka. What made you want to do more? So you're like, boom, I didn't get into engineering school, gone to law school. Why more? Why you've satisfied a tick there? What is the drive for you?
It was because it was definitely the external circumstances that was around my country. Currently, she facing an external crisis,
yeah,
and political instability. Because I thought it was not going to affect me, but as of now, it's everyone.
Yeah.
And so the reasons was, I always thought that I needed a backup plan, and I was running out of time. And I knew, because when I was born, my going through a war for 30 years, and I was pretty much, my father used to work in another part of the island. So he used to, and I knew what was the conflicts around the war. And frankly, the war ended, but then I realized if I wanted stability in my life, I probably have to build a backup plan. So that's why I came to Canberra and take some space, and also to explore around. And I felt and also build my backup plan. But I also wanted to explore the world as well.
Yeah.
And the reason I came to Australia, then UK or Canada, which were the other two options, is because I was not a big fan of the weather over there. So because I'm from tropical island and I like the beach, and even Canberra is ironically cold as well. But the thing is, I can go to Sydney or Brisbane for a holiday or for a small break, just to enjoy the beach around. And that's why I came here, because it was a good spot for me just to take a break from what's happening back, and also to build my career, propel it more forward. So
and I love that you mentioned that, because I see a lot of you in me, because I was the same. As I had to leave Zimbabwe because the political situation was just terrible. And even though you think that it's not going to affect you, it affects everybody. The whole country gets affected, which is why I ended up in New Zealand. If someone had said to me when I was growing up in Zimbabwe that, hey, you're going to be living somewhere else, I'm like, what are you talking about? This is great. And I don't know, I travel the world, blah, 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 but I'll be living there. But hey, life changes. And I think that's happened for you as well, that external situations have changed your world. And now sitting here today in Canberra, and you're seeing what's happening in Sri Lanka, how does that make you feel? Because obviously you have family there and you're over here.
Yeah. So I do talk to my mom and dad like every day. So
Yes.
not like I'm after work. Once I do a quick workout, then once I do all my routine, I just talk to my mom, and they're all right because
Yeah.
my everything's pretty much paid off,
Yeah.
and I'm fine stable as well. So my mother and dad, when I asked them, they seem to be all right
Yeah.
because
That's good.
yeah, and that's very grateful, and they're still healthy as well.
Yeah.
So then again, my mind's pretty much distracted from what's happening at home around right now,
Yeah.
because all my friends back home are in protest, are just just worried about what's going to happen to their future and trying to make decisions quick.
Yeah.
And so yeah, and I do what I can do to help them, like donate to the less privileged and the fortunate, and my parents do what they can as well. But yeah, I think hopefully it will be all right. But I think having being here, going to work, and takes my mind off those things,
Yeah.
just talking around. But also, I think it's something I have grown at since childhood because of the wall.
Yeah.
I went to school, the wall was there, so
Yes.
it's something I've grown up with to be accustomed.
Yes.
And yeah, I think hopefully everything will be all right back home. But yeah.
Yeah, I hope so too. I hope so too.
Yeah.
It's so crazy how, again, back to what we said at the start, that the normalization of your life is so different. Like you said, I grew up around the wall. That's the norm that you grew up in. And I guess if I say to Tana, hey, growing up in war, what would you think if I said that to you?
It'd be a completely different world. It'd be a completely different sight, and I wouldn't think it's normal. It's just, yeah, one of those things. Yeah.
That's really crazy. When you were going through your darkest times, what pulled you through? You said you had drive, but was there anything else that you reached out to just help you to get through, or did you do it by yourself?
So I was born and raised as a Catholic.
Yeah.
In my faith probably is strong, but I'm also a very private person when it comes to religion. Like, I don't want to force anyone. I respect everyone's belief, and I used to be friends with everyone. I used to pray along with my Muslim friends as well at times when I was in university. And then, but I used to. My mom told me to go to our local church to speak to this priest.
Yeah.
Because she was like telling me, do you really want to do law, or you can give another shot at doing engineering?
Yeah.
And for some reason I felt like engineering was too boring for me.
Yeah.
So then I talked to this priest, and he just told me, like, just do what your heart wants you to do and what you feel like you want to do, because I don't know. And for some reason, I couldn't remember what he specifically said, but he just told me, just do like what you like to do. Because at the end of the day, let's say if you do engineering, you're wasting time and probably wasting money and stuff like that. And I was like, engineering was like, because to do engineering for me, I had to do my ATRs or advanced levels again, because I passed only 2 instead of 3. And I was like, I'll be wasting probably a year as well. And then I was just weighing the pros and cons, and I was like, yeah, I might give this whole thing a shot. And yeah, so my first year I was working in a marketing freelance as assistant, just doing freelance stuff for a marketing company. And then I just was working there, and I just did my degree my first year.
Yeah.
And I felt like maybe I can do this, and I was really good at it as well. And it was really working for me. So then I was like, yep, I might just try doing this. And yeah.
Awesome. So I reckon that your faith has really helped you through that darkest time.
Yeah, it has. But also I have doubted as well sometimes, because sometimes, even though I could say that I did last 6 years at a stretch, not failing, but sometimes it was really dark as well, because I had no friends to talk to in regards to that. Yeah. And it was just, I had to figure stuff out. But also I was really grateful, because that made me stronger to where I am now. And that even like I do have people that to help me around, but I also knew that what I was capable of, and that I could achieve if I just work hard and just plan myself. And from there, I just got myself back up and just went through it. And I think the drive by year, my drive and my mental focus just became stronger. So like when I came to Canberra, even sometimes during the year, I was like, why did I come here? I was living a comfortable life back home. I'm a family, and sometimes I do have those doubts scrolling through, but then again, I remember what I'm trying to achieve here and what I'm trying to want to do, and it just there was this conflict back and forth, but I just worked through it, and now I feel like I don't have any regrets of what I did and the choices I made. So yeah.
And I love that you said, because I think it's good to normalize the fact that doubt is part of life. I see lots of young people, lots of people that as soon as they face doubt, they think, oh, they shouldn't do something. Whereas doubt is part of life. Tanya, I'm pretty sure you must have had doubts. I mean, you had doubts at the start about what you want to study as well. You weren't too sure.
Yeah, I've definitely had my fair share of doubts with study, with being here, with feeling like I should be at university, because it is a big jump. So it's, doubt is a hard thing. And sometimes you do feel like, oh, I'm the only one who's feeling it, because as we've said, within the whole situation, within the university situation, everyone kind of fakes it till they make it. Nobody else shows you that, hey, I'm struggling, I'm doubting what I'm studying, but you just have to realize that it's okay to doubt. And sometimes it's actually allowing you to make sure that you are happy with the things that you are doing at university, because if you go through your whole life not doubting anything, you're just going to be comfortable with anything, and that's not really going to allow you to truly grow.
Yeah, and that's really important, because everyone faces doubt every single day. We all face doubt, and like you said, we all pretend like we don't. It's not like, oh, I go to work and go, oh, I doubt that I'm doing, because you're like, oh man, maybe my boss is gonna look down at me. I can't say that, but internally you feel that. So I think it's important to normalize the doubt conversation as well, because we all don't know everything, and it's okay not to know everything, especially when you're 17 or 18 or 19 or 20 and they tell you to plan your whole life. You're like, actually, I don't know what's going on. I like playing sport. Oh, what do I do? Yeah, it's crazy. Aaron, so I'm going to come back to your point where you said you were suicidal, and then what shifted you there? Because that's a very significant point in your life. And how did you swing from there? Because that's like the deepest of the deepest.
Yeah.
And then to get to where you were, what is if you can remember, what swung that for you?
Yeah. So I can tell everyone, it's like my 180 point in my life.
Yeah.
And because until I finished school, studies never bothered me much, and I wasn't cared about life pretty much. I was just socializing on and off. Even being an introverted, because I was like introvert, extrovert, I was just, if I see a friend, I just talked a bit, but I also didn't want to go to parties a lot of time.
Yeah.
And then I was doing sports, and it was pretty much, I was just living my life. But once I got those results, it just hit me. I was like, yep, that's it. I'm done. And I spent the darkest moment. And probably I used to play a lot of video games. And so if I wanted to take my mind off, I used to play video games to get my mind off. And then my mom scolds me, you're not doing anything in your life. And it just, sometimes I used to go to the kitchen and, think about whether I should take the knife and kill myself. And also I had, people that around that time that were going through suicide. So I had like friends, some who took away their lives, and it was deeply concerning. And I was like, probably it's the best thing to do, because my life's over and I just want to end it really quickly. But then again, I don't know. It's my faith that tell me like probably there's something worthwhile to give a shot. So then that's why I was like, just took my time off. I was working as well during that time, and I just took my time off, and I just wanted to know maybe what there is one fair chance of this. And I did this thing where I couldn't believe that I failed for the mathematics. So I applied for recorrections on that, and it came to same result, and just wasted this amount of rupees or dollars on that as well. And then I was like, yep, I'm done. But I don't know, for some reason, I just felt like maybe I should give this law thing a shot. And probably I went to that university and I just told me I have this amount of results. How can I do this? How can I get a degree? And they were like, since you passed 2 subjects. And because there was this math subject, which I probably got like 70% out of 100.
Yeah.
And the other I got 50% out of 56% of 100 for the physics one. And they were like, yeah, this should be all right. Just do the entrance and we can consider you if you pass it. And I was like, yep, if I do this, then I'll be all right. But if I don't, then I'll probably have to kill myself again. And then, so I was thinking, yep, this is my only chance. And I just went for that exam and I got through. And then I took part in the program of the degree. And I was like, yep, then maybe this is my final shot. And after that, I was just in the library reading books on and off because I studied in English medium school, so English was pretty much simultaneously like my first language as well.
Yeah.
And then, but I was studying maths and physics, so I was not familiar with the language for like a couple of years, and so I had to readjust my writing and stuff like that. And I was like, yep, it will be a bit of a challenge, but if I go through the ignorance exam, I can get through the others. So after that, I just studied day and night in the library, spending time in the books. And people just used to laugh at me. You used to live in the library, why do you do like that? But then I knew why, even though that didn't matter to me, like I knew what I want to do in my life. And people still continue to doubt even at this point, even after I graduated, they were like, you won't find a job, but here I am working as well. So, and that's the beauty of it, because those people that criticized me were the ones that helped me to get where I am, because they were like, yes, they were like, you're gonna fail. I was like, yep, no, try me. And I was just, just motivated and disciplined enough to work day and night to get where I am. Yeah.
What an awesome shift there for you, from somebody who was planning to take their life to someone who has actually used that to grow you, where I think if you had your criticism when you're at your weakest point, we might not be talking to you today. So I'm glad that didn't happen. I'm glad you passed your entrance exam because, this is awesome. But I'm going to ask you a question. What would you say to your younger self today? So knowing what you've achieved and thinking about your younger self when you were going through those darkest points, what would you say to them? And I ask that question because there's a lot of our listeners out there who are in the same situation as you were then. What would you say to yourself?
Just have hope, and this thing what you're facing, right, it shall too pass. And that's what I would say to my younger self, because I think that time also it was just a glimmer of even being human. I think it's just us having hope
100%.
And patience. And even if you have that glimmer of hope and still have that 1% or 2% chance, then just have that hope and be patient.
Because I like that this too shall pass, because life is a roller coaster, right? Life is this. We can't always have good days. You can't always have bad days. Sometimes we have lots of bad days in a row, but that doesn't mean there's no good day coming. Fingers crossed. But this too shall pass, hopefully. That's beautiful. That is really, really beautiful. And then you've landed here in Australia. What is the biggest challenge for you in Australia?
It was certainly adjusting to the culture and probably that I didn't know anyone. So probably when I I was like, what should I do right now? And then I had to, luckily I had this probably through a connection that this friend, and she just helped me, like, this is the grocery, this is the supermarket and stuff like that. She showed me around, but the other stuff like going to university and trying figuring all that stuff, creating a bank account over here, I did probably everything myself. But like I said, when I came here, I was pretty strong, and I knew that probably this was going to be all right for me. And from there to finding jobs, it was pretty all right, because even finding a job was really hard for me as well, like a part-time, until like it took me like probably two months to find a job at a server. And then I was working part-time, and then also just studying well. And it was pretty much, I wouldn't say Canberra was like coming here was that hard of what I went through when I was 18 or 17. But it was definitely challenging as well, because COVID hit, and the whole transition shifted to online studying, and losing your jobs, and you're doing what you can. So I was doing deliveries at that time. just doing Uber Eats, menu logs, and supporting myself financially, paying off my degree as well somehow. And then it was good, but I was like, yep, that's it's gonna be all right. And I just just did it. Like try to time my things, organize well, and just got through it. Yeah.
It's really fun how to say that because when we come to university in anywhere you go, right, cool, the university stuff will all happen because it's there, but it's the simple things like a bank account. What is it? Where's the grocery store? And you see like 50,000 breads. You're like, oh, what bread do I buy? Because I'm not used to buying this bread. It's those life things that are different, right? Which you don't actually think about when you're in your home countries or your home regions, how different it is. And now that you are where you are, what do you hope? So now that you've picked up law as your thing, what do you hope to do with that? There, what's your I guess your vision going forward?
My vision is currently just because in my law field, I just want to get experience. So currently, I'm trying doing my legal training next year to become a solicitor over here, and then I want to probably work as a lawyer, and I work specifically in commercial and property aspects mostly, and that's my strengths are. So my weakness. So when I was doing developments in law school, my strengths and weaknesses I already knew. So my weaknesses were criminal evidence, those kind of stuff, and my strengths were in the commercial area, stuff like that. So that's why I'm focusing where I can achieve. But also, what I want to do in my other time is because that's my career, and the other areas would be just helping people around mostly. When I went to University of Canberra over here, I used to help people a lot. I used to volunteer a lot.
Yeah.
And because people say, why do this? You don't have time. But it's just so funny. I just, I study, do this job, but I still have time to help people. And I actually didn't mind it. And I feel like because my philosophy is like, I was brought in this world to spread love and help one another. And if I can do that and help people to make it a better place, and that's my role in my society, then I don't mind doing it. Because as long as I have my career on the end, and if I have time to do the other stuff, then I actually don't mind doing it. So yeah.
Again, you're sharing lots of beautiful things here, Aran. Yeah, you brought into the world to spread love, and volunteering is one way of doing that. And Tana, you also are a big advocate of volunteering as well. I see a very similar thing with both of you because you both work hard, but you also give time to volunteering. What does it do for you, Tana?
It just gives me a sense of giving back. I think, there's so much that I get from what I've done and what I've been able to do that I feel like if I can just have the same impact or even a similar impact on people, I feel like that's something in itself. I love to volunteer because, I have time to do all the things that I want to do. So this available time that I'm not doing anything in, I might as well put it towards a meaningful cause. And, I've tried some things I haven't enjoyed as much as I thought I would, but there's other things that I probably took more away than I thought I ever would. So it's about, when I give these things, it's trying different things because I'm not going to know what's going to give back. And sometimes with these volunteering opportunities, you don't know the impact you're going to have until afterwards. Even in my position as RA, I know it's paid, but in my position, there's small things where I don't realize I'm having an impact at the time, but later down the track when the students say they appreciated me doing that or, going and doing something that I thought, I was just going to do anyway, it has such a big impact on them. So it's about, it just gives me more than what I aim to get out of it. And that's where you really see the value in volunteering.
And I think for both of you, I think when you're giving, you're actually getting, like you get a lot back when you're giving, you don't actually realize it until later on, which is pretty cool. Which is, I think volunteering is amazing. And the fact that you both do that is great. Yeah. Aran, do you have any siblings? Or is it just you?
I do have an elder brother. Yeah,
yeah?
he's in Sri Lanka. Yeah.
And what is his thought about you becoming a lawyer? What do they think about you?
Funny, strange enough, he was we had the sibling rivalry. So he was the one that thought that I was going to fail at everything.
Yeah.
But now it's like he's really appreciating me because he knew that, yep, I finally did it. And it also inspired him because when I was growing up, I didn't have much of a role model. My father was away, like my father, another part of the island.
Yes.
And was my strong. I think was my role model at some point.
Yeah.
But my brother was also pretty much distracted, and that's the reason. And I think because I have 2 degrees and he still doesn't have one, I used to drop out, and we used to figure out why was that, and he was pretty much distracted. But I think because I think it kind of inspired him of what I was achieving. And he was like, yep, I need to try something in my life. And he's trying to put pieces and bits together right now. So he's starting a new degree again. And
Fantastic.
yeah, and that's a really good on him. And I just feel like that rivalry or the hate that we had, I think it's slowly starting to rebuild with
Yeah.
love and friendship. And probably, yeah, I think it took like 2 decades, I guess, but still it's better than nothing. So yeah.
I mean, family dynamics are tough. They're really, really quite tough. And also, I think family dynamics in a culture where there's lots of expectations, um, it adds another layer of toughness. And it's really awesome that you've now become an inspiration. Which is so well done you, well done you. Aaron, we've almost been talking for about 45 minutes now. Yeah, that's all good. This is how these things go. And so our podcast is called Baskets of Knowledge. And what we like to ask all our guests is we like our guests to share some knowledge that they'd like to have our listeners bring their baskets of knowledge. So if there was 1 or 2 pieces of wisdom that you'd like to share with our listeners, what would that be? Let's always put it on the spot. This is a hard question.
Yeah, it is. But this is good. I come with myself. Because someone asked me, "What if you have a superpower? What would it be?" And I was like, "It's the ability to heal others."
Yeah.
And for me, that's the best superpower in the world. If you can help one another and heal others,
Yeah.
I think the world will be a better place.
Yeah, that's a great superpower. And how would you say that to our listeners? Because we can't have superpowers. So how would you heal people? So
You can't heal people,
yeah,
but you can try and help one another. And I think that's a way of healing one another. Because if one's going through mental health or one's going through a problem, and you happen to be that person that probably can help that person, and that's one way of healing that person who is going through that. And if we in society, and if we have that ability to help that person, whatever he or she or whoever that goes through that, then I believe that that's kind of like having superpower to heal others. So yeah.
Exactly. And I love that because I wanted to test you in that question, because when we think of superpowers, we're like, we can't do that. But actually the way you've articulated is fantastic, because you said, hey, you don't have to have a superpower, but just by helping somebody, as you said right in the middle of the conversation, just by helping somebody with their assignment or with their study, and healing them that way, that's a great way just to be there. And I guess for you also, being there to listen. If we think back to when you were going through your darkest times, if you had someone to listen to you in a different way, it might have changed your story has been amazing, but your narrative might have been a little bit different. If there was someone that just went, okay, hey, Aaron, just speak your mind and let's talk about this. So that's a very beautiful superpower that you've shared, and a great piece of knowledge there. Tana, any last words before we say farewell?
No, it's just been awesome to hear your story, Aaron, and just it helps me reflect a lot as well. It's good to hear other people's opinions, other people's thoughts, and other people's journeys, because at times, as I've said before, we think about, we've talked about people often don't show that they're doubting things. It's been a challenge throughout parts of this year for me. So it's good to hear about other people's stories, hear what they're doing, and just being able to reflect and see that, it's not always going to be a good day, but just taking small things that you can do to achieve your day and take something out of it. That's for the true, that's what keeps you going.
Yeah, I mean, Aaron, your story is fantastic. Thank you for sharing with it. Just to summarize, you were in a state where you had these expectations, and those expectations weren't met for whatever reason. That doesn't matter, and that drove you to thinking about ending your life. But you found solace, and you found drive, and you switched it all, and now you're employed and working in Australia with a master's in law, which is fantastic, and you're sharing the love as well. So thank you for sharing that story with us. Any last words to our listeners out there, Aaron?
Probably I think it's just if anyone's going through anything at this point, it's just have patience, and if there's someone that they can talk to, always be willing to open up, be vulnerable, and just have hope. Because, like I said beforehand in this podcast, these things shall too pass, and just have hope. And yeah, probably, and just don't. Probably you have doubts and you have regrets, but it's just the past, and just keep moving on, because every day is a new chapter, I guess.
That's a beautiful way to end the process. Thank you, Aran, for being on our podcast. And thank you for sharing your story. I know Tana and myself have both appreciated it. For listeners out there, I know you've all taken away something from today's story. Thank you for listening. Remember to always put something to your basket of knowledge, but also don't forget to share, like, comment, subscribe to this podcast on whatever platform you listen to it. It's only through your sharing, liking, and commenting that our podcast gets to grow. Thank you very much, and stay safe, everybody. Bye, everybody. And stop.